Imagine a mid-range phone showing up with a battery so big it actually outshines the flagship sitting right next to it. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. That's exactly what OnePlus is about to do with the OnePlus 15R, a phone that might ship with an 8300 mAh battery, which is something we basically never see on a mainstream device. And honestly, it completely changes what you expect from a normal smartphone. So why does this matter? Because battery life has quietly become the feature people rely on the most, but talk about the least. We can debate cameras or displays all day, but at the end of the day, nobody wants a phone that dies before dinner. And OnePlus seems to understand that in a way most companies don't. This isn't a small bump or a marketing trick. If the 15R really launches globally with the same battery as the A6T, it instantly becomes one of the longest-lasting smartphones you can buy, flagship or not. The interesting part is how all of this came out. OnePlus president Louis Lee shared the full battery details on Weibo, confirming that the A6T will pack that massive 8300 mAh cell along with 100W wired charging. That's a wild combination. A battery that's bigger than some small tablets, paired with charging fast enough to top it up without making you wait an entire afternoon. And since the A6T is expected to arrive globally as the OnePlus 15R on December 17th, there's a good chance the international version will share the same setup. There is a small possibility that OnePlus scales it down a bit outside China. They've done it before with charging speeds. But even then, the 15R is still shaping up to be one of the most interesting mid-range launches this season. And that's because the battery isn't even the only headline-worthy spec here. This phone is loaded. You're looking at the Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 chipset, which is a pretty bold move for a device that isn't marketed as a flagship. The display jumps to 165 Hz, which is usually something reserved for gaming phones. OnePlus is also adding their Glacier cooling system to keep performance steady, and somehow they still managed to give it IP69 water and dust resistance, which is higher than what most premium phones offer. Even the fingerprint scanner is upgraded, using a 3D ultrasonic sensor under the display instead of the more common optical ones. Camera-wise, it's rumored to stick with a dual setup, a 50-megapixel main camera and an 8-megapixel ultrawide. Not the star of the show, but realistically, the audience for this phone probably cares more about power and endurance than having a fourth or fifth lens. What's really interesting is how this positions the OnePlus 15R in the mid-range competition. At launch, it's going to be staring down the Pixel 9a, Galaxy A56, and Apple's new iPhone 16e. And early next year, it'll be up against the Galaxy A57, A77, Pixel 10a, and the iPhone 17e. None of those phones are expected to go anywhere near 8300 mAh. Most companies are still hovering in the 4000 to 5000 mAh range, maybe 6000 if they're feeling bold. So OnePlus is basically setting a new standard, one that might pressure everyone else to rethink their priorities. And honestly, it's about time. For years, mid-range devices have been predictable in the worst way. Decent cameras, decent displays, decent batteries. Everything is fine, but nothing really stands out. The 15R breaks that pattern by going all in on the one feature that has the biggest impact on how you actually use your phone every day. A battery like this doesn't just mean all-day life. It means 2 days for most users and maybe 3 if you're not a power user. It means not carrying a power bank. It means not calculating your screen brightness or worrying about GPS navigation draining your last 20%. It just gives you freedom. Now, will this be enough for OnePlus to win over more users, especially in markets like the US? That's the real question, because even when OnePlus builds great hardware, it sometimes struggles with carrier availability or brand momentum. But if there's one feature that can genuinely cut through all the noise, it's battery life. People don't have to understand specs or benchmarks to appreciate a phone that just keeps going. For me, the OnePlus 15R feels like a reminder that specs don't need to be complicated to be impressive. You don't need a microscope camera or some wild AI magic trick when you can solve a really practical everyday problem. If OnePlus keeps this exact configuration for the global version, the 15R isn't just a good mid-range phone, it's a statement. And if the competition doesn't respond, we might finally see the beginning of a real shift in what companies prioritize. So yeah, a phone with an 8300 milliamp hour battery doesn't sound flashy at first, but when you think about how much that changes your daily experience, it's honestly one of the most exciting upgrades we've seen in a long time. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.